2007, a celebration took place on the banks of the Truckee River, not far from Reno, Nevada. It was a diverse group: Native American tribal members, conservationists, ironworkers, architects, painters, carpenters, contractors, engineers, and construction apprentices. They had set aside their different ways of looking at the world in order to build a unique shade structure for the Nature Conservancy. They shared a common goal: to create a place of beauty incorporating native basket-weaving design and providing a place where residents and visitors could appreciate the ecosystem of the Truckee River. The work took several years, and the vision was fulfilled thanks to a unique collaboration of community, conservation, and craftsmanship. Of course, any good collaboration necessarily brings diverse viewpoints to the work at hand.
At first I was a little skeptical about it, and then once I saw it assembled, it's a masterpiece.
I didn't think it was going to work looking at the picture.
Wouldn't have there been an easier way to do this besides weaving us in and out of here?
You know, working with apprentices, there have been a few hiccups along the way, and it's been kind of an interesting process on this one.
To tell the intriguing story of how the Mccarran Ranch Pavilion came to be, we have to start with the water. Named after Paiute Chief Truckee, the river originates at Lake Tahoe, plunging east through the Sierra Nevada and the Truckee Meadows on a 140-mile journey that ends in Pyramid Lake. 15 miles east of the urban area of Reno and Sparks lies a stretch of river that was selected by the Nature Conservancy for a special restoration project at the old Mccarran Ranch. After decades of damage, the Truckee River ecosystem is getting a boost back to the thriving state that was once the norm. Back in the mid-19th century, explorers such as John C. Fremont noted the lush vegetation and abundance of large fish. And in the United States geological exploration of the 40th parallel, ornithologist Robert Ridgway described the Truckee River, its banks fringed with dense thickets of rather tall willows growing about 15 feet high. During the summer, these luxuriant meadows were the abode of numerous waterfowl, while in the thickets magpies and smaller birds were abundant. Ridgway went on to list all the species that were found along the Truckee River. But today, due to a long history of misuse, the ecosystem is highly degraded. It has lost 90% of its riparian forest canopy, about half of its migratory bird species, and a large percentage of native fish populations. Weeds, not old-growth cottonwoods, have overrun the banks. And so it was that in 2003, the Nature Conservancy began working with the community and local partners to restore the Truckee, digging a new meander in the river to reconnect the water to its floodplain, putting riffles and rocks back into the channel to provide better habitat for native fish, creating new wetlands, and replanting native vegetation to provide homes for numerous mammals and birds. The vision of a restored Truckee River ecosystem raised the logical question of how humans could best appreciate the river. A gathering place was in order, but it would need to be special. The Anderson family of Incline Village was looking for a way to honor the son they had lost, Douglas Carl Anderson.
After our son's death, we saw this rugged place as a particularly special place to do something to commemorate his life.
With a donation from Bob and Carol Anderson and friends, and a design arts grant from the Nevada Arts Council, the Nature Conservancy worked with Cathexis Architecture in Reno to create a site-specific shade structure.
The rougher timbers, all of that are a little more raw materials of what shelters in this area, 150 years ago would have been built out of.
The shade pavilion would reflect the rustic, natural character of its setting, utilizing raw timbers to resemble the type of materials used since long before recorded history. The walls would actually be trellis panels to follow the movement of the sun and provide varying degrees of shade throughout the day.
The copper is going to be a key element to complete that trellis aspect of it. These are both the vertical and the horizontal panels they will create kind of this idea of kind of this basket weaving, which ties back into this native aspect of one of the inspirations behind the project.
Of course, there were significant challenges for the engineering team: high winds and flooding.
Shown here has to be able to resist the design loads of 105-mile-an-hour winds going through the Truckee Canyon there.
Well, the design as presented to us by Cathexis was very exciting from the initial drawings. And each permutation of the drawings, it became more exciting.
As the vision grew, it became apparent that the project was not simply about craftsmanship. A unique opportunity was emerging, one that could involve a wider community to ensure the project's success. With the initial support of the Andersons as a foundation, the Nature Conservancy approached the Associated General Contractors for help.
Our Mccarran Ranch restoration site will eventually be open to the public. It's not open yet, but when it is open, this will be the anchor piece of the public access aspect of Mccarran Ranch and the restoration work, so that people can come and enjoy the site.
This looks like a great opportunity to have the various apprenticeship programs participate and put the footings, foundations. The carpenters could help with the woodwork. We could probably have the laborers assist. The operating engineers could dig the footings.
I think we'd like to get involved. It gives the apprentices some hands-on experience. Plus, it also puts into their mind the notion of giving back to the community.
It would fit well, with the Carpenters Apprenticeship Training Program. They get to interact with some of the other trades, what they don't typically get to do on the job site or in school.
It's great to see everybody come together and have labor and management, the architectural team, as well as the Nature Conservancy and members of the AGC come together, put together a project that the community will be able to enjoy for many years.
The Associated General Contractors unanimously agreed that the project would be worthwhile. With cooperation from the carpenters, operating engineers, ironworkers, and painters union apprenticeship programs, the project began in earnest in the winter of 2006. A site was chosen on the banks of the river, near where the new meander would soon be dug.
Past the construction site, we're looking at the Mccarran Ranch house. That was Senator Mccarran, where he grew up, and the story is that he would ride into Sparks to go to school.
You know what that means for us, Carlos? What's that? It means we got to backtrack.
These are our carpenter union partners, the apprenticeship program. Without their assistance, there's no way that this project would be possible, because it's a tremendous expense that they're saving us.
No, I think it's buried underneath those stakes on this side of the trailer.
Okay, I got just enough to finish this last one.
I don't want to haul these. Those just go over in the pile over there, okay? At this phase of construction, it's much like the foundation on a house. Very similar. The concrete has to go down to stabilize the overall structure. And so the apprentices in the program are stripping the footings, installing the steel cages that were tied by the ironworkers apprenticeship, and getting ready to put the sonotubes down that will contain the concrete that becomes the support structure for the upper structure. In this particular project, the very interesting aspect of it is we have all of the apprenticeships involved. Before the project is fully completed, we will have approximately 218 different apprentices that will work on this project. Currently, we have about 8 women in our program. This is a great way for a woman to earn a new living. The apprentices get to work on a real project instead of just building something and tearing it apart on Friday at the end of the class. In this instance, they're building something that is real world, which means that it requires a high degree of craftsmanship, which is the pride that our unions were built on.
With the foundation underway, the door opened for the team that would prepare the wooden panels for the shade structure.
This is Local 567, the Apprenticeship of Painters Allied Trades. What we're doing here is we're brushing penetrating oil all over all of this stock. We are hand brushing everything once here, and then once it's all built, we're going to go out there and do the same exact thing. The product itself is preservative wood, and we have already gotten 2 Saturdays into this. We're going to be finishing up hopefully next Saturday, it looks like, and then we'll just wait for the carpenters to go and build this place.
The Painters Union apprentices would ultimately put in more than 250 hours to prepare the wood for construction. With that accomplished, the carpenters could begin their part of the work.
In order to maintain a higher quality of the end product for the Nature Conservancy, what we've done is designed and built a jig table to maintain a consistency from part to part. What the students are doing currently is they're actually assembling what will become the shade panels that go on top of the structure. There is a varying width to the interior 2x4 pattern of this that goes from 30% to 80% shade to take into consideration the movement of the sun and the shade that people would like to enjoy when they're sitting inside the structure.
With the panels completed, the carpenters' apprentices moved to the next stage of construction, adding copper strips to the panels.
The students are weaving the copper in the roof panels and the siding panels. Right here is the blueprint of the roof, and they're all categorized and by number and by letter. And what we're going to do now is we're at a stage where we're screwing down and securing the copper, and then from here they will be stored to a side, then transported by a flatbed truck to the job site where they'll be installed after the concrete has been poured on the columns.
The Shade Pavilion project has given a great opportunity for the apprentice carpenters to have a real live project to be working on and see that plans change throughout the project, and this is a real world scenario. That's what happens out on the job sites.
What appeals to me about this trade is that you learn something new every day. There's never a day where you don't learn something. Even a journeyman carpenter, you're always learning. You can't know it all. Not for some people, but you know, it's for me because I like to work with my hands and I like to work with tools and create stuff that I can see and appreciate.
As the apprentices continued their carpentry work at the training center in Reno, temperatures had warmed up out at the Mccarran ranch site on the Truckee River, and the foundation work was being completed.
What you're seeing right now is the pouring of the foundation for the shade structure. The sonotube has been placed and it is filled with concrete now, and the apprentices are finishing up the process of getting the concrete where it's supposed to go. The next step will be to assemble the wooden pieces of the structure using this as a base to set a foundation to set it upon.
But before the building could be constructed, the foundation would need to be fortified.
What we're doing here today is the columns have been poured and we're now backfilling around the columns. They're about 8 feet deep. The reason that this is such an important step is the structure itself is prone to high winds in this canyon that come through. No one knows exactly when or how strong, so they've actually over-engineered this structure to incorporate the high winds as well as occasional flooding. Just this past January or February we had a bit of flooding, and exactly where the fire pit's going to be was about a foot underwater, so they had to take that into account when they engineered this. So right now we're putting the best possible compaction around these footings to ensure that it will not go anywhere when the winds do come up, or should flooding and winds come at the same time. It's about the worst scenario possible. So we should be in pretty good shape here. We should be high and dry.
As work continued on the shade structure, the new channel was cut in the river as part of the Nature Conservancy's ongoing restoration project that started in 2003. Signs of improvement were already evident: thriving stands of cottonwood, all kinds of birds, great blue herons, cormorants, the western kingbird, a variety of snakes, sightings of a bobcat family, a resurgence of fish species, and a type of frog that had almost disappeared.
This is the first year. It's a juvenile leopard frog, and this is part of one of our repatriation program. We've raised them in some ponds upstream from here. This guy has migrated downstream and across the river, now living on the banks. This is his first year of life. This is the first year there's been frogs, leopard frogs, back into this river system.
Leopard frogs used to be one of the dominant amphibians along the river. Now they're almost extinct in the Truckee River basin.
The new river meander brought the waters even closer to the pavilion, making it the ideal place to witness the rich diversity of life along the Truckee River.
I love it that there's a lot of access to the public and that we're really trying to incorporate public access in at this early stage when we can still do quite a lot and really incorporate it well into our design.
With the arrival of autumn came the moment everyone had eagerly anticipated.
Today we initially started installing all the column posts from one end to the other, and Mike Harmon, who's right over here, this is Mike Harmon, stand right here. Mike, tell us a little bit what you did today.
Finished putting some of the strut rods on top of the trusses and stood 4 trusses today.
So we're progressing forward now, and there's no stopping us now. So we're going to continue the project and go with the wind. That's what we're going to do.
Don't say go with the wind.
Well, it's nice to finally have something vertical going up. It's all about what you're seeing now. It's about seeing things go vertical and getting finished and built. You know, we all go through these processes of design and construction and manufacturing and all of that. And it's really so that we end up with a space that you can use forever or as long as it can be in place. And so it's the rewarding part of all the process.
As work on the Shade Pavilion continued, the partnership and collaboration among all the trades became even more important.
And then the panels are now ready to be installed, and then we take them over to the structure and set them in place.
Good communication between the architectural design team and the union apprentices would be especially critical to the success of the project.
No, I've never worked on anything like this before. This is one of a kind. It's something very unique. You don't see this every day. It's came a long way from start to finish, you know, and just watching the project develop from dirt to something as beautiful it is now it's really amazing to watch.
Working with the apprentices is had its own rewards too. With these kids, they don't really get very often to talk to architects, engineers, and work out problems together. Usually they're given a set of plans that some nameless person put together, and they create opinions and attitudes about each other without ever meeting and actually discussing what they're trying to accomplish. So this project is giving, you know, a lot of classes within the apprentice program to touch and feel with the professionals that they deal with in the field that quite often they don't know that they're available as they are. They don't know that we're actually here to work with them and make this go better. And if we see something together, usually it's a better solution than if we see it separately.
Wouldn't have there been an easier way to do this besides weaving this in and out of here?
Well, I think the weaving, if you didn't screw it, it would work. Because you didn't need to put every screw in. You could have screwed it.
A unique feature about the collaboration between the apprentices and all the other parties involved is learning that architects and structural engineers and the tradesmen are all interrelated. We're all working towards the same end, and we've had a very flowing conversation throughout this entire process. So the apprentices understand what an architect is thinking about. The architect understands what the apprentices are thinking about. And it's that uniqueness of this project that's been the best part of the learning project for everybody involved.
With the addition of the shade panels, construction was soon completed. The following spring, the final features were added to the pavilion that would enable it to function as the gathering place it was intended to be. With the amphitheater-style seating and a fire pit in place, it was time to formally mark the completion of the project. Everyone who had played a part in creating the Shade Pavilion, from operating engineers, iron workers, carpenters, contractors, and architects, to the Nature Conservancy staff, had a chance to engrave their names on the newly installed fire pit. It was a fitting way to mark the end of a long process. The pavilion itself would soon receive an honor award at the 2008 Nevada American Institute of Architects Design Awards. And then, all that remained was to celebrate.
Greetings in all three of the Great Basin languages here.
We're glad that they're working with the tribes and restoring the river to its natural ways here. And also that we're working with them to bring back the native plants.
You know, you can look up into the foothills and kind of reflect on things. It's very cool to be sitting out here.
There's a rabbit.
Yeah. A lot of wildlife.
Our class was actually able to come out 3 times, and so it was nice to see the progression.
Sitting here now and with the shade, with the sun behind us, it's working just the way it was designed to do. Came along real nice. Works good.
I think one of the best things about working on this project actually was working with the different apprenticeship programs, carpenters, the iron workers, the electrical workers, the painters, so many different groups that came together, the operating engineers and the various companies and organizations that donated towards this project. To make this possible, it really is about community and cooperation, collaboration.
It's a beautiful facility, and we hope that the community and visitors have the opportunity to use it.
It's a beautiful place just to come down and put your feet in the water and bring the kids down and have a picnic lunch. And the birding, tons of birds out there. We saw some new birds today that we haven't seen before, so we're anxious to find out what kind of birds those were. It's beautiful, very lush and green actually down by the river, and the oxbow parks that have been created are really nice.
The more people that get out here and see it and experience it, the better off the river's going to be.
The scale of the project has grown. At this point, of course, we couldn't be more well pleased that the oxbow now being in place has made the site for this pavilion ever more beautiful than we ever would have imagined.
You can already see the patina on the copper starting to change, a little bit of the bolt weathering and some of the on the wood. You see the landscaping starting to mature on the site, and as functions are held, as people enjoy the site, you're going to see more and more evolution of the life of this project. I think that you'll see this become an impetus for other things.
The thing that it symbolizes for me is our welcome of the public and our commitment to public access. To me, it's both an end and it's a beginning. It's the end of a monumental project that involved so many different facets of our community to get this structure created and built. But now it's the beginning, and it's the beginning of our public access program. This evening is the kind of experience that I think we all imagined when we saw the drawings of the Shade Pavilion. We have a wonderful breeze blowing here. The sun is starting to set. There's just a rustle of the cottonwoods and beautiful, beautiful glimmer on the river. So it's the perfect time of day to experience the Shade Pavilion.
In the end, the story of building the Mccarran Ranch Pavilion is not so much the weaving of copper and wood, but the weaving together of human beings with diverse outlooks and skills, who came together for one shared vision, inspired by the memory of Douglas Carl Anderson. Working together, we can ensure the diversity and enrich the quality of life on Earth now and for future generations. The Nature Conservancy, protecting nature, preserving life.